But anyway, so the first thing I wanted to say about it, I said this at the beginning of the program as well, but I know I'm late to this whole thing because people. I think the trailer came out exactly 2 weeks ago by today. I didn't listen to it before I did the first show, and to be fair, even if I did, I might not have mentioned it. And the second show afterwards, well, you know, I had better things to talk about. I had the Super Bowl to talk about, so we couldn't talk about it then. I did think about it, but I ended up avoiding that. But the thing is, I kind of wish that I had held off on the 2024 movies conversation until I did this show now, because this would have been case in point to add this to the discussion for why movies are going to suck this year. Although, really, I guess to be fair, I don't really know if it counts in the same vein as some of the movies I talked about in that segment, and I'll explain why later. But anyway, I mean, I guess for some background, the first Megamind, I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, I guess the thing is, it's been years since I last saw it, and maybe it doesn't hold up because of that. I don't really know. I don't really watch a lot of animated movies. I mean, I watch some, I guess, but I don't really. I'm not gonna spend 2 hours of my life watching a cartoon. I'm just kidding around, but it's like seriously, I haven't seen it in a long time, and I know a lot of people really enjoy. I mean, there's video essays and stuff on why it's a masterpiece or whatever. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it was a good movie. It was fun for kids. It's cool. Uh, and that's all I can say about it. It was a good movie. So I don't know if that because of that more people were expecting a sequel to it, but I never did. I didn't think some movies when they end you just kind of think they're not going to make a sequel to it. They wrapped up everything to it to a point where really how could you continue it? And I thought that was kind of a similar thing here, but apparently some people disagree with me on that. But I thought it will also be good to mention that this is basically the equivalent of a straight to DVD movie, since it probably isn't going to be in theaters. And that's the thing for why I said I don't know if it's really in the same vein as stuff like the Pharrell Williams Lego Movie and Despicable Me 4 and other movies that are coming out. Because really, I mean, does that count as like a full scale, big release movie that is going to be reviewed and analyzed? No, it's basically like throwaway garbage. I'm not saying that there aren't theatrical movies like that. There are plenty of theatrical movies like that. But that's kind of, to me, a lot of people are really angry about this movie, and that's something I was going to talk about as well. It's hard for me to get angry at it in any way because, I mean, well, first of all, I guess it's just a movie. But also at the same time, it's basically, I feel like they expected less people would put any thought into this movie, especially adults, but they were wrong on that. And the thing is, I don't really blame people on one hand, though, for getting kind of passionately angry about it, because since COVID, the line seems to be a bit blurred about what counts as a real movie. If you want to kind of call it a real movie and either a real movie or a straight to DVD, straight to TV, throwaway crap garbage movie. And the thing is, like, if this movie came out, say, 5 years ago, back before COVID, and it was just released on DVD bargain bins, no, I don't think anyone would have even thought twice about this movie. But then again, I guess that's kind of why because we're in the time period we're in, that's why people are going to think about and consider it so hard, because of the fact that it is, again, ever since COVID, no one really knows what counts as a real movie anymore, because, starting with COVID, a lot of movies were just released straight to streaming services, straight to DVD, all that. And if you remember, right, I'm not going to give like a whole history lesson here, but if you remember right at the beginning, I think pretty much every movie that wasn't canceled or pushed was just, they decided to release it straight to a streaming service. Not straight to DVD. DVDs obviously aren't really around anymore. No one cares about those. But, something like that. So that kind of makes sense as to why people would take it more seriously, I guess. But at the same time, I kind of think, clearly no one put any thought into this, so we might as well not judge it so harshly. But that kind of goes back to my, earlier point. Out of every movie you make a sequel to years later, I don't remember when the first one came out, like 14 years ago, I think. In fact, I think it came out around the same time as Despicable Me, and that's kind of why it didn't make as much money as people thought it would, because it came out around the time a more successful movie came out that had a somewhat similar plot. So, was anyone like demanding a sequel to this movie? I mean, I know a lot of people said it was great, like really good, but was anyone demanding that they continue the story? I don't know. I didn't think so. But anyway, I watched the trailer to it, which is, again, what kind of sparked this discussion, because I don't think anyone even knew this was happening until the trailer came out. But, I saw the trailer to it, and the first thing that really stands out about it is the animation, which is, I think, the main thing people are complaining about. And this is where it kind of comes to why I don't really have as strong feelings to it as a lot of people do, because if you had told me that what was happening, this movie, this basically straight to DVD equivalent movie was coming out, and you expected me to, I mean, you want me to imagine what I would expect the animation to be like, it would probably be about this, just because I wouldn't expect any strong quality from it. But it really just kind of looks like it looks like the cutscenes of like a Wii U game, or the cutscenes to, it looks like the cutscenes to a video game, maybe even older than that, really, maybe like Xbox 360. I mean, that's what the animation looks like. I don't even think the lip syncing was very good, for a lot of it, but that's kind of the thing that it seems most people are upset about. Some people are kind of upset about the story or other aspects as well, which we'll get into. But that seems to be the number one thing. Like when you look at the YouTube comments, about 90% of the jokes being made about the movie and how bad it looks is about the animation. And it's not without warrant, But I mean, I guess we'll get further into it. But that's the first thing that's going to stand out about the movie. It didn't really surprise me, but it still was pretty bad. But I guess another comparison would be if you remember those Nickelodeon DreamWorks shows. I don't know if they're still making them. I don't really care. But from like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, well, yeah, even longer than 10 years ago. It's longer than that. Like that Penguins of Madagascar show and the Kung Fu Panda show. Like that's basically nearly identically what the animation to this looks like. And we'll actually be getting back into that a little bit later. But the thing that was funniest to me about the animation, because the animation just looked bad, but it was what I expected. It wasn't really like the subject of joking to me. But the one thing that was actually kind of funny to me is that they do a thing that some movies do when they release sequels years later, is they include clips from the original movie in the trailer, kind of recapping things for those who forgot, which is probably essential. I think a lot of people forgot what happened in that movie because I feel like most people in the general public kind of forgot about it. You can't sync up that animation with a new animation and expect it to look alike, That's the one thing, like, the animation I can forgive how bad it is because I would have expected that quality. But then when you look at it mixed together with the old movie, it's... Now, any goodwill you had, bro, like, if you're seriously trying to trick us into thinking that the animation is at all similar just by playing it in close proximity to each other, no, you failed that one, bro. You failed that one. But I guess we'll talk about the storyline for this movie. And apparently what it is that Megamind has to fight some group of like villains he used to be in cahoots with back in the old days or whatever. I mean, okay, like I don't even think that's really that bad of an idea of a story, since I guess because the movie ended with him being a superhero now, I think it's kind of implied. And at the same time, I feel this is a separate discussion, but if anyone's listening who has a problem that I just spoiled the movie, it was well over 10 years ago. There's, to me, if a movie's not in theaters even, I think it's just fine to just start giving away spoilers without warnings. But if you hadn't seen it by now, you never were gonna see it. So don't be upset. I guess if you were listening to it, I don't know, the chances of, I mean, considering the fact that I've made jokes before about how probably no one's listening at this point, the thing is, if you're listening to the show right now, and you haven't seen Megamind, which I imagine just the majority of the population on Earth hasn't, because there's 7 billion people out here, 8 billion people actually. If you haven't seen the movie at this point, you were never going to see the movie, so don't be upset by that. But anyway, it's about him fighting this group of villains. And I mean, I guess that could be a creative idea. If you asked me to make a sequel on the movie, I don't really know what else. I mean, I don't know what I would have written it about. I mean, assuming I took it seriously, I don't know what I would have written it about. So, okay, fine, I guess that's okay. But a lot of people have a problem with it because in the first movie, it was kind of a theme that he was kind of a loner, I guess. And it didn't really make sense why this group would be with him in the first place. I think they were trying to imply, like, he was a loser even by supervillain standards. But I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really bother me, to be honest. It's all just kind of par for the course for these kind of crappy sequels. And I think even a good sequel could have been made with this premise. I mean, it could work. It could be interesting, I guess. Because I don't know what people really expected. But then again, I keep speaking as if people wanted a sequel for a long time, or at least people who liked the first movie. I don't know if they did. I mean, I assume most people would just... I feel like a lot of people are just turned off to just gratuitous sequels at this point because of how bad they've been the past 10 years or so. So maybe they didn't want them. But I'm kind of speaking as if people wanted a sequel and they're disappointed with the story of this movie. I don't know if they are. But anyway, one thing that really did bother me, though, because I said the story didn't bother me that much, is the voice acting. Because both Megamind and, I don't know, the girl from the movie, I don't know her name, they don't sound anything like they used to at this point. And it's because they couldn't afford the old voice actors, I guess. And I mean, sure, I guess I shouldn't expect them to get like Will Ferrell if the animation doesn't even look right. But, the animation I expected to be bad. I didn't expect the voice acting to be bad. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be the original cast. I mean, not that I don't know if Will Ferrell's in that hot demand right now, but I didn't expect he would be in the movie. So that didn't really bother me that much that he wasn't in it. But the problem is the guy they got to play him, he doesn't even sound like him anymore. I mean, I'm not going to start critiquing people's voices considering, you people are listening to my voice right now and you're probably getting tired of it. But it's all weirdly high pitched. He's trying to sound this weird regal voice. And it doesn't sound anything like he used to sound. Because Megamind in the first movie was just basically Will Ferrell talking like Will Ferrell, I'm sure they can find a guy who can just do a Will Ferrell impression. And it's going to sound close enough. But and again, this is partially because I was a kid when these shows came out, so I don't really remember anymore. But I used to watch some of those other DreamWorks shows. Like I watched the Kung Fu Panda show, and I watched the Madagascar show. And I mean, yeah, it was clear they could never afford the actual voice actors, I guess, except for the ones who didn't they could get for scale. Maybe them they could get back, but I knew that the majority of them they wouldn't get back. Even as a kid, I think I felt that way. But you could at least tell that the person sounded kind of like the original character. I mean, here they didn't even try, and that's just the thing that's really insulting. And the funny thing about it is, I talked about Despicable Me coming out the same year as that movie. Maybe the funny thing is, because I've heard before people say that movie hurt the ticket prices of the first movie coming out at the same time and being about a vaguely similar thing. Maybe they released the second one all this many years later just because they thought, okay, this year we can come out with the movie and, it'll actually make a lot of money this time. Well, I guess I got some bad news for them because out of all the years from 2010 to 2024, they could have chosen to release this movie. They chose to do it the one year that Despicable Me 4 comes out, which that's just funny. Come on. I mean, and I don't know if that movie is going to hurt this movie. I mean, that movie's actually going to be in theaters. So, I don't know if that is going to affect it at all, but it's just a funny little thing to note there. And, it's also kind of funny that from these people who are into animation who talk on YouTube or whatever, it seems to they seem to think that Despicable Me was a bad movie and that Megamind was like kind of, a good movie, a masterpiece to some people. I wonder if this is going to hurt that opinion at all. If people are going to look back at the first movie worse now that this one's coming out and just looks horrible. But I'm sorry that, I agree because I haven't seen either of them in a while, but just Megamind was a better movie than Despicable Me in my opinion last time I thought about it. And I feel sorry for them. Just because Despicable Me made a lot of money, they're on to number 4 theatrical release now. And Megamind 14 years later got a sequel that looks like it was animated based on, the few pennies here or there they saved from the first movie. So, I'm sorry. That's just sad. I'm sorry. But the other thing is that apparently this movie is basically, I don't know if this is the official reason they're giving, but it seems to function as basically a pilot series or a pilot to a sequel series they're working on. And I always just kind of hate when movies do that. I hate when someone makes a movie for, just to show more crap. It just feels soulless. It doesn't feel like anyone even cared. And I know this is, a sequel to a movie from years ago. And when they do that, it's never because of passion. It's always just for money. Which is the other thing that I won't go back into that discussion, but why I don't understand the thought process of making this movie now. The movie didn't even make, I don't think it was a failure, but it underperformed from what they wanted, the first Megamind. That's the movie you want to make a sequel to all these years later just for money? I mean, have you ran out of every other property you could possibly make a sequel to? But whatever, that's besides the point. The thing is that when you make a movie so blatantly just for money, I mean, I don't see how anyone above the age of 5 could watch it. I mean, I guess the joke's on me. I don't think they expected anyone above the age of 5 to watch it. But yeah, so in case you're wondering why now, why are they making the movie now? I guess because they had the idea for this series now. And as for why they're making this series now, that's a question I guess only God knows. I don't know. I can't really answer that one. But the backlash to this trailer has been just, hilarious and kind of crazy. And people are very upset. I don't have that plugin installed on YouTube so you can see the amount of dislikes for a trailer. I don't really care enough to get that. But you can tell it's not a good ratio. It has to be in the 2-to-1 area for how many dislikes the trailer has. And the thing is, I think it would have even more if more people knew about it, because I remember the first time I heard about it, actually, I think it was earlier in the day before I did the show 2 weeks ago, because I just saw on YouTube trending was, the search term that was trending was Megamind 2 trailer. And so I looked it up. I figured, oh, okay, that must be a real thing. And because the thumbnails and the trailers were just clips from the old movie, I just thought, oh, okay, it's some weird prank thing. It's not real. Because if you ever notice that a lot of people make these weird fake trailers on YouTube, use screenshots from other existing movies. Like if they're going to make a fake trailer for Back to the Future 4 or whatever, they just use screenshot, either a really obvious fake image of, Doc and Marty old now, or some random screenshot from one of the earlier movies. I mean, maybe that's a bad example because those movies came out so long ago that if you saw it, you know it was fake. But for animated movies especially, they use these screenshots where they think, oh, well, that, maybe no one will notice it was from the first movie there. And, you can tell, like, they're doing, usually people do that, they're just doing it as like a hobby or whatever. So don't get too wrapped up in it. But I just assumed it was that. I just assumed that because it was using these screenshots from the first movie. Oh, okay, so the trailer is basically just fake. But no, it's because that was the best. That was the best looking animation in the movie. That's why they decided to put those in there. I don't know if they were trying to fool people to think the animation for the actual movie would be better, or because whoever was making the trailer just realized, well, there's nothing. There is no good shots of animation from the actual trailer that won't just throw people off. So let's just use the screenshots from the first movie in the trailer. What about that? So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, I mean, I can't speak for everyone. I've never seen a survey on this or anything, but I assume more people would have seen the trailer if they used a different screenshot because they would have known, oh, this is a real sequel to the movie. Okay, well, I better watch the trailer then. But no, they used a screenshot from the first movie like they thought no one would notice, which maybe most people didn't notice. But my whole point with this, I'm sure there would be a lot more people watching and getting pissed off if they knew this was a real thing. I wouldn't be surprised if there's still a lot of people who don't even know they're making this movie because of that. But, when I'm talking about the backlash for this trailer, beyond just YouTube, there's also, I just thought this was funny because it gets all the normal negative reactions, like stuff on Twitter, stuff on random social media places, that you would expect. And maybe this is par for the course for crappy movies coming out, but I saw a petition on change.org titled Save Megamind 2 that has 1,850 signatures at the moment, which maybe isn't a lot, but I just thought that was interesting, especially because it was growing pretty fast last time I checked. It was getting something like 100 signatures a day, which I know maybe doesn't sound like a lot, and really it's not that much in the grand scheme of things. But to me, I was surprised because I thought any petition like that would have far less support. I'm not saying I thought a lot of people would like the movie who didn't, but I still just didn't think it would get as much attention as it did. And anyway, I thought I'd quote some of the petition here because I just thought it was pretty funny, which was, quote, "Nobody asked for this version of Megamind 2, so I say we bully DreamWorks like we bullied Paramount about Sonic, and maybe they'll listen. And it's obvious that no one working on the new Megamind projects care about the original movie." I think they're referring to both the sequel and the show coming out. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I agree with that. Although I guess you wouldn't really expect anyone to care about the movie if they're making it this late. I don't think there's anyone realistically who would have the idea to make the movie this late, except for, I don't know, whoever created the movie. And it would be from any place of passion. So, you shouldn't really be surprised, I guess. But I don't really know. Can people bully DreamWorks like Paramount got bullied about Sonic and then they'll fix it? I mean, I know that's partially a joke, but it's way too late for that because the thing people didn't like about the Sonic movie, the main thing was just the design of Sonic. I mean, I think the trailer was, I never saw the movie, but I thought the trailer looked way worse besides just that stuff. But it seems like with Megamind, people are upset about the story, the animation, and the voice acting. So you're basically asking them to redo the entire movie on, the scraps from the budget that are still left over. Scraps of scraps, if you will. And no, that's just not possible. I mean, again, I know this petition's probably more as a joke than anything, and it's a pretty good joke. But if they actually hope anything's actually going to change, I'm sorry, but it's far too late in the process for that at this point, brother. But anyway, change.org, the thing about it is it's like a pretty crappy website where people make horrible petitions based on complaining about nothing. I mean, honestly, I thought that would kind of be a funny segment, just going over horrible change.org petitions. I mean, I don't really know if I'll do that a week where I have no ideas, which that was pretty much this week, so it's coming up. But, I think that it's funny that anyone would make a petition anywhere about this movie. And again, 1,850 people is not really a lot, especially in the context of these wide internet movements that get a lot of attention. But, with all the stuff on change.org and, petitions about actual serious issues somewhere on there, not like that's going to do anything either, but whatever. It's just funny that this is the petition that would get a decent amount of support. But, like I said, just kind of wrapping this up, I really don't care that much about cartoons or cartoon movies or whatever. So I don't care that much about it, but it seems that this movie, in the context of at least the idea that it would get a theatrical release or that it's even on par with theatrical releases because it's being put on Peacock or whatever, where some legitimate movies are put, just looking at it in that context makes this funny to me. I don't really care one way or the other what the movie's like. I'm not even going to see the movie probably, so I don't expect like a review on this show. That is if you even remember, but, I thought it was funny at least, so, and like I said, there are weeks where I have basically no ideas of what I'm going to talk about, so wait for one of those weeks and we may just discuss it here. I can't promise anything, but it may happen. So anyway, that's pretty much all about